So the Normandy talks have failed. The Russian military has surrounded Ukraine from all sides. America has refused to deploy its troops. And American citizens have been asked to leave as soon as they can. Where is all of this heading? Let's bring you updates from the capitals which are shaping this conflict. Joining us are my colleagues, WION correspondents from 3 cities. Tonight we have Trent Murray in Berlin, Nick Harper joining us from Washington, D.C., and Ollie Barrett is with us from London. Trent, let's start with you. The German Chancellor has warned Russia of economic consequences should it invade Ukraine. Tell us about the developments in Berlin.
Well, the German government has been playing a very active role in trying to defuse these tensions on the Ukrainian border. They joined the French in hosting talks between the Russian and Ukrainian representatives, trying to find a way through all of this. Certainly what we are seeing from Berlin is a concerted effort to work strongly both with NATO and the European Union, but also to try and continue to have direct talks with the Kremlin. Chancellor Olaf Scholz has only been in the job since December. He comes, of course, after Angela Merkel retired. He has very big shoes to fill because Mrs. Merkel herself was quite respected by President Putin, I think it's fair to say, and would often speak to him about these types of crises, really seen as a very strong voice on behalf of Europe and the broader NATO alliance. But Chancellor Scholz, nevertheless, is working hard to, I suppose you could say, fill those shoes. He will travel to both Ukraine and Moscow next week for talks with President Zelensky and President Putin. While Germany is resisting sending any military lethal aid to Ukraine right now, unlike, say, the United States and Britain, they do say that they are still standing with Ukraine, that they respect, obviously, the sovereignty and territorial integrity of that country. They are trying to find peace with the Kremlin, but Chancellor Scholz also has said in the past 24 hours that Russia should not underestimate Germany's resolve when it comes to its commitments to both the European Union and NATO.
Nick, Joe Biden says that, quote unquote, things could go crazy in Ukraine. These are his exact words. Things could go crazy in Ukraine. How do we view such statements? Does Washington really think that war is inevitable?
Well, these are some of the strongest comments yet from the US president. We've certainly seen over the last few weeks the language which US officials, including the president, are using increase in their severity. The fact that President Biden, when asked about the situation in an interview, said that things could go crazy quickly suggests that the US is very concerned. He also said in that interview that it was time for US citizens, if they were still in Ukraine, to evacuate. He made it clear that the US would not be sending troops into Ukraine if an invasion happened to get those citizens out of the country. They have to do it under their own steam. So there is this warning from the president. There is this new advisory from the State Department telling citizens to leave. And there's also the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, saying that there could be an invasion any day. There has been this thinking that perhaps Russia would wait until after the Beijing Winter Olympics have taken place. They'll finish in a few weeks' time, so that he didn't anger his ally, Chinese President Xi Jinping. But Secretary Blinken, when he was asked about it, made it clear that the invasion could happen any day, that it could happen before the Winter Games have ended. So yes, there's certainly concern, but you're right. At the same time, we're seeing Ukrainian officials downplaying the situation, taking it in much less severe terms. They are telling their civilians that they do not have to be concerned. So there does seem to be this push and pull between what the US and other Western nations are saying and what Ukraine itself is saying.
Ollie, the Russian foreign minister has slammed UK's foreign secretary over what he calls inaccurate geographical information. Do you think that London will be able to make any sort of diplomatic breakthrough given the kind of responses it is getting from Moscow?
It looks very difficult indeed. Liz Truss certainly received a difficult reception in Moscow, and Boris Johnson's trip to Poland and Belgium on Thursday was an expression of support from the UK government and a chance to show backing for the NATO military alliance and for allies in Eastern Europe, but not a huge amount of concrete progress came out of that trip from Boris Johnson. He will point you towards the extra military support that the UK is deploying to the Eastern European region and say that that is important nonetheless. And the diplomatic efforts by Britain continue, even if there has been a lack of success so far. Defence Secretary Ben Wallace is in Moscow over the weekend for talks with his opposite number. He will certainly be hoping that those go slightly better than those talks between Liz Truss and Sergei Lavrov did. But the UK does believe that diplomacy can be successful over the longer term and continues to insist that it will try as hard as it can to achieve success down that route. But the UK government is also still warning that an invasion, it believes, could be imminent.
Trent, Nick, Ollie, thanks very much for those updates. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.